From SF Land, this is Dorking Out, a podcast for people who love to dork out about movies, TV, and everything pop culture.
Welcome to episode 147 of Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. And in this episode, we're dorking out about 1988's Working Girl.
I'm wearing my big hair. You can't see me right now, but I've got it teased all the way up.
Nice. I always wear my hair like that, so I didn't even have to dress up.
The good thing about hair like that, I realize now, like on humid days, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because your hair is already just big and messy and out there. I never thought about it. You know, then when the straight hair trend started, that's when my life became miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Because here in New York, it gets humid.
Yeah. So are you ready to let the river run?
You're damn straight.
So directed by Mike Nichols and written by Kevin Wade, Working Girl stars Melanie Griffith, who surprisingly is the third billing in this movie, even though she's the star, and Sigourney Weaver, Harrison Ford, a young Alec Baldwin, and Joan Cusack, who quite honestly should be in every movie.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
What's your relationship with Working Girl, Margo? Did you see it in the theater?
I did see it in the theater. Saw it with my mom, and we both loved it. This is one of her favorite movies ever.
Aww.
I know, and she loved we watched it all the time, whatever was on, and then she loved that theme song so much. And when I moved to New York and I actually got my first job, I called to tell her, and she started singing this at the top of her lungs.
Oh,
it's so cute. Yeah.
That's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
And if you like this song, Let the River Run by Carly Simon, then this is definitely the movie for you, because they play it
the whole time
and over and over throughout the movie in different ways. So it's like the version you probably heard on the radio, then there's like a violin one and an organ one, and there's like, it's just all these different versions. And because of that, I have been humming this song for days.
It's great, though. It's an awesome way to start a movie.
It is. It's a very catchy song. There's a reason it won the Oscar.
It was supposed to be Witchy Woman, by the way, by the Eagles, believe it or not.
That doesn't work.
I know. But Mike Nichols is friends with Carly Simon. He told her about the movie. She goes, oh, maybe I could write something for you. So thank God we have Carly Simon.
That doesn't work. That's ridiculous.
No, it's stupid. Yeah.
They couldn't get Devil Woman.
By Cliff Richard. I love that song.
I love that song too. It's on my playlist. So this movie was kind of a big deal. Like, Mike Nichols has done a whole bunch of really awesome movies, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and The Graduate, and Silkwood, Birdcage. I love Postcards from the Edge. That's one of his too. I love Postcards from the Edge. We should put that on the list. That's such a good one. And I saw this one in the theater too, because it played at my movie theater, and I just remember being really excited that it was another Mike Nichols movie, because everyone loves Mike Nichols. He did The Graduate, and I just loved it. I just didn't think there was any movie like it, and of course that's because I hadn't seen like a lot of old, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like 40s and 50s comedies were this has kind of that style, but it's got obviously a more modern spin. But that kind of romantic comedy can be a little old fashioned, and I liked it though. I think this movie still holds up.
It really does. I mean, you could nitpick little things, that are very 80s about it.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you like how much I really enjoyed it. I cracked up several times. I thought it was engaging the whole time. Mm-hmm. I think Melanie Griffith is just astonishing. Like, that's a tough part to play that she's playing. Sure. And she manages to do it. And the time she was struggling with a drinking problem.
Yeah.
And she still puts in a really great performance. Sigourney Weaver, how much do you love her?
She's
such a bitch, but she's great.
I feel like Sigourney Weaver doesn't always get the props that she should for comedy.
Yeah.
And she's really good in this. And I think Harrison Ford is really good in this too. I wish he played more roles like this. I mean, I know that he said things like, I'm playing the girl role in this movie.
Yes.
And, I don't know how I feel about that comment, but he's kind of right in that I feel like all the women in this movie kind of objectify him.
But they do. They absolutely do.
Like when he's changing his shirt.
Yeah.
In his office, and like all the women are like looking, and he's very handsome man.
Well, I mean, if Melanie Griffith is going to be in her garters and underwear, like for part of it, like it turned about as fair play. We should have a little, Harrison Ford action.
Yeah.
He was 45 when he made this. Yeah.
He looks great.
It's amazing.
And she's, everybody drink, adorable. She's adorable. And she's so good in this movie. Like, I love how smart she is, and I love how she changes her voice when she talks on the phone with like Jack. She's like, "Hi, Jack. This is Tess. Yes, I'll meet you for lunch, blah, blah, blah." And then she gets off the phone, and it's like, and the accent comes back, and, just the way she carries herself, like physically, she's just so, so good in this movie.
You don't get Staten Island very much either in movies, I don't think. And I'm a New Yorker, and I have a friend that moved to Staten Island like 3 or 4 years ago, and she's just like, "Oh, it's a whole other place here." Like it's very much its own kind, its own accent, its own kind of people, because it's not connected to the city. You have to take a ferry or take the bridge. And I love taking the ferry and coming to the city. It always reminds me of Working Girl.
Of course.
I always want to sing it when I'm on the ferry.
It's so iconic. I think of it when I take a ferry around here, and it's not even the same.
Yeah. You know what I love is just that first part when they're on the ferry coming to New York, and it lands, and all these women are wearing tennis shoes with scrunchy socks.
Yes.
And their pantyhose. And their suits, and they're carrying, and then they get to the office and they dump their shoes in the thing, and they put on their high heels.
Yes.
And that's just like so what I wanted when I moved to New York. And I still wish I saw that. You don't see that as much. I think they just made more comfortable shoes.
Yeah, that's true.
People were smart about that.
But yeah. I see it every once in a while because I work down in San Francisco's financial district. So I see it sometimes, but not as often as maybe in the 80s. But I am fascinated when I see women in like the super high heels walking, and I was like, damn, how does she do that? It's like a magic trick.
I used to sneer at that, and now I'm just in awe.
Yeah, well, now I'm just like, get it, girl. Good for you.
Yeah, I had to relearn how to wear heels again and stuff like that. I'm like, damn, girl, good for you.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, I'll have to buy shoes with arch support now. Like, I can't do that shit. So good for you, lady.
I was looking at that, like, why are there sneakers everywhere? I'm like, all right, they didn't have aerosols then. Remember when aerosols came along?
Yeah, no.
And they were like the most comfortable shoe ever.
Right.
Yeah.
So I read that the writer of this movie, Kevin Wade, he really did like see all these women like getting off the ferry, and they all look like Tess. Like, they're all with the big hair and the tennis shoes, and that he kind of wrote this as like an immigrant story. Did you read this interview too?
Yes.
And I just thought that was so interesting, the idea of like a modern day immigrant story. He says it's like a person who comes here who doesn't speak the language, which I mean, she speaks English, but she doesn't speak that like business lingo that we all know, that you need to like move up in the world. And she didn't have the right clothes, and she didn't know the customs, but she had the brains.
She went to school at night too. So it took her forever to graduate, but she got her bachelor's, and there she is on the stockroom floor. It's the same year. Like, it came out a year or so after Wall Street.
Right.
So we had that understanding of what that looked like to have a woman there, and she's super smart. And then of course, here we go. They put her, she wants to rise up. Well, it's a bunch of piggish guys at the time. And who is she in a car with but Kevin Spacey?
Kevin Spacey playing himself.
Basically playing himself. He's playing a predator, playing a shit. And he's he puts on a porno in the limo, and it's gross.
It's so gross. And at the time you think that's so exaggerated, right? Or at least I think men watched it and were probably like, that doesn't happen. that totally happens.
Also, men kind of like, oh, just shrug it off, you
Yeah.
know, and like, you know, it's such a minefield because you can yell at a guy and then you're bitchy. You
Right.
can laugh it off and then they'll just try somebody else with it because they think it's no big deal, which is why you
Right.
get a Louis C.K.
Yes.
who's just like, well, what's the problem? And so it's so how does she handle it? She kind of makes a joke, but she gets the hell out of the car. And then I guess now you answer this for me because I actually,
Okay.
this is the first time I thought about it. Is she working at the same company? Do they just transfer her to another division? Or did she get a whole other job?
You know, I wondered that too. I felt like maybe it's within the same company.
Yeah.
And that's why when she goes to those parties, she keeps crossing paths with some of the same people.
That has to be it. Okay, so then
But I
Olympia
wasn't sure
Dukakis.
either. I was like, because that's why Olympia Dukakis is playing like a pretty small part as like an HR person or, you know, is like, this is the last time I can place you, which kind of made me think it was the same company. Like,
it would have to be, right? Because you can't work that many in like 1 year, like 3 different places. You're just not going to get another job. Okay, so then and I love how she puts that thing on the wire that he's a sleazoid with a like, small dick.
Yes, with Oliver Platt playing one of his many creeps that he's played over the years.
I bet you he's like a super nice person in real life.
I think he is, and I think he would fall on our list of underappreciated actors.
Let's do that.
Because Oliver Platt is one of those people who's solid in everything.
He's always good.
Yeah. He could play a
Whatever
nice guy or a creep.
Yep.
He's got range, baby.
So that's when we go. So she goes to work in mergers and acquisitions, same company, but it's mergers and acquisitions, and it's for Sigourney Weaver. And my God, how beautiful is Sigourney Weaver?
Oh my God, so beautiful. Like all of her clothes, like perfectly tailored, perfect hair, just gorgeous skin, like just everything's handed to her whole life. But I actually have I've been thinking about that character a lot. Can I go on a little side rant here?
Go for it.
I was just thinking, like, she's the villain of the piece, right? And like at the time, it just seems weird. And I've read criticisms of this, the idea that like there's only room for one woman at in the boardroom, right? So like, you know, Catherine has to be evil and then Tess takes her place or whatever. I don't think that's what's really happening, but some people read it that way. I read it more like she was like a mentor that disappointed her, less like we can only have one woman, you know, that sort of thing. But I was thinking that Catherine has her own story too. Like she's moved up through, she's rich and she's gone to the best schools and she's had everything handed to her, but she's still a woman. She still had to put up with all these creeps. She still had to navigate a minefield to get where she is. And they show it like when they're in that meet and greet and the creep is like putting his hands on her and she's like, you know, why don't you bring me this big deal and I'll, you know, have a drink with you or whatever. Like she has still had to face the kind of sexism that Tess has, but she's still a liar who steals Tess's idea. But I think that there's another layer to her that maybe a lot of people don't think about. Is that she had to go through the shit too.
With all of her privilege and her good looks and her money and stuff, she still had to work to get to where she is.
For sure.
And she has to overcome being a woman. You know, white men are considered the de facto human.
Yes.
You know, heterosexual white men are de facto humans, and then everybody else is just a little different. And you have to kind of find your way in to be okay. And once they think you're okay, then you're okay.
Right.
And it's very much, that's the part of this movie. Like, that's exactly what this is. And so only one, and she probably, one woman can make it.
Yeah.
They're only going to hire one woman at the executive level.
Right.
And if you don't succeed, they're going to just fire you and get a dude in there because women can't. Do you remember? Okay,
and the pressure on her to perform always not just the same, but better, right? You can't just do the same job that, like, say, a Harrison Ford does. You have to be better. So maybe that would be like a motivating factor for being an awful person who steals another person's idea. She's still a terrible person, you guys, because she steals that idea. I'm just saying, she probably had a lot of pressure.
She probably had a lot of pressure. I mean, I would prefer a movie where she and Tess team up.
Yeah.
And they kind of overcome a sexist system.
Right. But that's not this movie, unfortunately.
That's not this movie. This movie is also kind of like you were saying, like 40s and 50s. There were a lot of great women's movies then because a lot of the men were at the war.
Yeah.
So there's this great plethora, a treasure trove of these women-centered movies. Katharine Hepburn, Betty Davis.
It was like a League of Their Own,
women.
but for movies.
Yeah, they were always happening. And I think so. There's a little bit of like, this is the late 80s. So we have this business, mergers and acquisitions. By the way, mergers and acquisitions is seen like an awesome thing, right? Like, yeah, you're actually firing people a lot. Do you know that?
It's so funny because Working Girl is one of the many movies of the 80s where it's just like the whole movie hinges like on a business deal.
Yep.
It's all, but it's all like whatever to me. Like it's the MacGuffin, right? So it's like,
yeah.
Well, we got to make this deal and we got to wow this client and we've got to, buy that company and blah, 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 blah. It's just all super 80s.
And also it's just this idea we're acquiring the acquisition. But that also, like, people forget, like, that means a lot of people get fired because then there's redundancies and, this is what happens. So, yeah.
Mergers and Acquisitions, one of my favorite bands from the 80s. I would buy their concert t-shirt.
And it's so funny, too. It's very dated because these guys want to buy media and like, let's buy radio stations. That's like where the money's at.
Yeah.
And it's like, boy, no, it's not. I mean, turns out.
One of the things I love too, when that kind of just sets up how Katharine is when she's talking about how she's going on her ski trip and she thinks her boyfriend is going to propose. And the way she talks about it, like, well, we're in the same city now, and I've indicated that I'm receptive to an offer. I've cleared the month of June, and I am, after all, me. Like,
I like it when she makes Melanie Griffith put on her ski boots.
Yes.
And then she says, oh, did you make the reservation? She goes, and then Melanie Griffith says, oh, they don't have any. They only have this room. They don't have the one you want. And I have been in this fucking position where I tried and I didn't know how to finagle it. And then the person goes, well, let me try again for you. Boom. Oh, by the way, she speaks German.
Of course she does.
Of course she does. And it's like, oh, God, because you have to be good at everything. Plus, you have to make magic happen.
Yeah, of course.
With a phone call.
You have to be a magician. Yeah. Have you ever worked in this kind of an office job?
I've had tons of office jobs. I've never worked in banking. I've usually worked in public relations and publishing. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of the same shit.
Yeah, it is.
There's a person that's in charge, and then who sucks up to them, and who do they like? And it's hard as a woman when you walk into a meeting to not be the one that's told, oh, you can take the notes, right? Oh, the worst job ever.
I just think it's kind of the same no matter what company you're in.
Yeah.
Because I work for newspapers and it's the same bullshit.
Yeah, the same bullshit. Yeah, you can go get the coffee, or you can, like I said, take the notes, or, you get along with people better, so you do this thing while we do strategy or something like that. And there's a lot of that bullshit.
So Katharine goes skiing and breaks her leg, and a scene that actually made me laugh out loud because it's just her like going over a hill, and then it's like, ah! It just made me laugh. It's like something out of a sitcom. Like, we can't afford to do the stunt, so you're just going to hear it happen. Ah!
We're just going to take her to Hunter Mountain and just put her on a really high spot.
Yes.
And shoot her from behind and then go.
So that's, as she's in the hospitals, when Tess figures out that Katharine has stolen her very good idea of buying radio stations. So she decides that she's going to like kind of not impersonate Katharine, because I don't think she impersonates her, but she kind of pretends that she's an executive at Katharine's level.
And I like it how she goes to Katharine's house, but Katharine's house, by the way, is beautiful.
Of course.
But here's something. She doesn't have any staff.
Right. That seems weird.
That seems weird to me. Nobody comes by to clean. Nobody's like somebody who has money like she does would have someone.
Yes.
But okay, so let's say it's Tess. And then I thought it was weird that she just dictates everything she's going to do, including something shitty, and committed to tape.
And then leaves the like incriminating evidence up on a computer screen.
That's
all you have
magically
to do is, like,
there like a month later?
Yes.
Because she just taps it, boom, and there it is. Oh, Tess. Yeah, the computer didn't whine. I mean, I don't know. I grew up in a computer family. Parents worked for IBM their whole careers, so sure, okay.
Yeah, let's just say that that's a real thing.
Right.
But this all leads to her deciding that she's going to, take on this position, and she wants to go to this fancy, like, happy hour, I guess. Oh, Margo, your ride's here. Your ride's here, Margo.
Sorry. Sorry, guys.
No, it's not a big deal.
I worry because I'm going to tell you, there's an elderly gentleman that lives on the 4th floor. Yeah.
Is it?
And he's really far gone. Like,
no.
one day, yeah, it's not today, you guys. Okay, I don't think
okay.
they're going down the street.
That's not going on right now, is it? Okay.
No. But one day.
Okay. I need to talk about something way more important, which is when Tess goes to put on that dress and finds out it's a $6,000 dress.
Okay.
And then
it's not even leather.
It's not even leather.
That's Joan Cusack is her friend, and she's just fucking amazing in this movie.
She's serious. Joan Cusack, I wasn't joking at the beginning. She should be in every movie.
Yeah.
She's the best, and she's so good, and she's so grounded, I guess, is like she's a real person. She feels like a real person who is trying to do the right thing by her friend and give her good advice from where she's coming from. Like, because she's like, you're going to get caught, be nice to the creepy Alec Baldwin character. He's ruining my engagement party, all these things. Like, she's never like a dick, but sometimes she isn't like necessarily looking out for Tessa's best interest, but I think she thinks she is.
Well, she's part of the patriarchy. She's part of this culture. You get married, you have kids, your husband makes enough so that you don't have to work after a while, and you stay in Staten Island.
Yes. And
you have friends that are firemen and cops and stuff like that. And she likes it. That's what she was raised with. That's what she's comfortable with. And so she doesn't understand Melanie Griffith. She's like, you got this. And Alec Baldwin, I mean, he's a dick, let's be clear.
Oh, he's a huge asshole. He's the kind of guy who buys his girlfriend lingerie for her birthday.
He's gorgeous, though. I'm telling you.
He really is.
Oh, my God.
He could totally. 1980s Alec Baldwin could buy me lingerie anytime. I'd be totally fine with it.
I'm totally okay with him objectifying me.
Yes.
He's gorgeous. And he
doesn't get to now. Now he doesn't, but 80s Alec Baldwin totally could. I'd be fine with it. Alec Baldwin. Yeah, he's a huge asshole too. He cheats on her. We skipped that part.
Yeah.
Because she gets home, she doesn't have a class that night. She comes home and he's sleeping with Doreen, someone else. And because, by the way, in movies, why are people always sleeping with other people in their own beds?
Nobody's sneaky about it, are they?
Yeah, you're not sneaky. Look, I'm not a cheater. I've never cheated. But if I was cheating, I wouldn't do it in my own bed. That's how you get caught.
I would have a much better alibi. Yeah, people are stupid. Yeah.
I do it in the car like everyone else. God.
Get a hotel room, people.
Maybe they can't afford the hotel, I guess. And that's why you do it in the car. Here's your tip for today, everybody. You're welcome. If you're going to cheat in the car. Okay, so she tries on the dress, realizes it's outrageously expensive. I've never owned a $6,000 dress. That's bananas. And I got married. My wedding dress didn't cost that much. And then she gets all like she's starting to have an anxiety attack, and she takes a Valium, which I love. And then convinces Joan Cusack to cut her hair, because if you want to be taken seriously, you need serious hair.
You kind of do, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think
That's
of her?
not a bad
What do you think
lesson.
of her new haircut? I think it's cute.
I love her new haircut. I wish I could wear that.
I
also love that dress.
I love it when I love the dress too. I love it when she styles it the next day and she kind of looks like her mom.
I thought the same thing.
She looked like
her
Tippi Hedren in The Birds.
Yep.
I can't help but that must have been like a conscious decision, right?
I think it's a nod to her. Yeah.
I mean, the suit and everything totally looks like Tippi Hedren. So she takes a Valium and drinks tequila with Harrison Ford, and she says the very famous line about how she's got a head for business and a bod for sin.
And she's loopy. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't know what she's doing because she's there to meet Jack Trainer.
Yeah.
She's never met him in person before. This is before the internet. She can't just look up his picture or in the company ID. And he's kind of a dick because he doesn't say who he is.
Right.
He has a girlfriend, ostensibly he does.
Who, by the way, has a broken leg.
Who has a broken leg, who hasn't visited or talked to, I don't know. So he takes Melanie Griffith back to his apartment. It's like a second or third floor walk up. That must have killed his back.
I wrote in my notes, my husband would call a TaskRabbit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
He'd be like, carry my wife up these stairs.
I mean, she's skinny, but it's dead weight. I mean, he's got to take her upstairs. So he takes her upstairs, and the lingerie, and we talked about this before, like 80s lingerie with the garters and the stockings, like the most uncomfortable shit ever.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, just for me, it's, when I see that stuff, it just, whatever. So she falls asleep, and in his apartment, in his bed, he doesn't put her on the couch or anything.
Yes.
And she's not naked. She's in her underwear.
Yes.
And stockings that don't have a run in them.
That's
good.
He's
magical.
He's very gentle.
Yes. And then she goes to the office, and then she goes to the meeting. And this is just to get them all interested in the idea of having Trask by the radio stations. And I love this touch. She goes to the meeting, and she doesn't have a suitcase. So she just kind of has this big envelope. Mm-hmm. And she just says, oh, I lost my suitcase. Yeah. You know.
I lost my briefcase. And she's got the envelope, but she's also got the like the big rubber band around it.
Yeah, it snaps it off. And then just goes into her pitch. And she's pitching to a couple of guys. And good for them. They didn't steal the idea from her, because that's probably what would happen in real life.
No shit.
You know, they would kind of coo her and say, okay, thanks, honey, and then take the idea for themselves. So then she and Jack, and then we find out Jack is struggling. He hasn't had a big deal in a while. And I like that whole line about how on his telephone by his name, there's tapes of the names of the other guys before him. He's worried about losing his job. So they're going to partner up and meet Trask and get him to get a meeting. So that's when they go to the wedding. Mm-hmm. And I love it when they go to the wedding. They're so cute together. It's so fun. But is this wedding like on a Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning or something? It's a little weird.
It's a little weird. But it is something I love, and it's one of the things I love about the movie is, so there is kind of this thing at the beginning where like he's hitting on her and she's like, you know, loopy on her drugs or whatever, but they don't really hook up, even though he takes her dress off and puts her in the bed, and you know, there's this kind of like pervy, like, well, you sure are pretty, you know, kind of thing. But but he's not a total creep show about it. Just he's a little bit of a creep show, but not like a major creep show.
We have to grade on a curve.
Right. Okay. It's the 80s. Come on, you guys.
It's the 80s.
But they actually spend some time together, like working together. Like they go to this wedding together, so then they get to like spend some more time together doing stuff, so that you could see that these people are falling in love.
They're attracted to one another, and he respects her ideas.
Yeah.
And she's the one that's like, okay, let's sneak into this wedding. You know, people are in a good mood here. I'll dance with the guy, get him interested in the idea, and then we'll kind of tango on out of there. And they work together. She gets with Trask, and then Harrison Ford finds out the name of Bitsy. And hey, Bitsy, please tell me you'll break my heart if you don't remember me. He takes her away. It's great. They're partners.
He's very charming in this movie, and I just feel like it's
so charming.
You know, when he's not playing. He's amazing when he plays Harrison Ford or Indiana Jones. But like, we don't always get to talk about Harrison Ford playing like, I guess, a normal person. Mm-hmm. And he's just so good in this movie, and he is so charming. Mm-hmm. I really like him in this movie.
Yeah.
I would have liked more of this from him.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Did you see him at the Golden Globes, by the way?
No, I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Was it to be last year?
No, he presented this year. Like he just presented an award, and he came out on stage, and he looks older, and I was like, oh, Harrison Ford, please take care of yourself.
Solo, I mean, I love the fact that Harrison Ford's going to smoke pot and fly planes and doesn't give shit.
Doesn't give a fuck what you
He
think.
doesn't give a fuck what you think about on.
You gotta love that.
I do.
It's like, I'm gonna smoke pot and fly planes and wear my earring and fuck you guys. Date Ally McBeal, or they're married now, right?
They're married. Yeah. I kind of love him I love him for that.
So one of the other things that happen is after Tess catches her boyfriend in bed, she goes back to Staten Island to go to Joan Cusack's engagement party. And she comes in and she's all put together now, right? Like, she's cut her hair, she's wearing like a suit, but once again, like, she's a good person. She comes in, she clearly still cares about Alec Baldwin, so she's nice to him when she comes, like, puts her briefcase behind the bar and stuff like that. And then I love where he says, "You look classy. Would you have traffic school or something?" It's just like,
he's such a meathead.
I know. And it's just one of those things that makes me laugh, because when I worked at the newspaper, it is like, anytime someone came into in the movies, like, people who work at newspapers seem to always be kind of dressed up. Like, the men are in ties and things like that. Never at any newspaper I've worked at is that a thing. So if you come in and you're a woman and you're wearing like a dress, or you're a man and you're wearing a tie, people always say, like, "Do you have to go to court today?" They always say
a job interview.
You have job interview's the other joke. Yeah, you have a job interview today? How'd it go? Take me with you. But then, of course, like, he proposes to her in front of all these people, because why wouldn't he propose to her after 3 days ago he was cheating on her, and she says maybe, and then he gets mad at her for embarrassing him in front of all of his, and stomps out, and she says, "I'm not a steak, you can't just order me." I'm like, okay.
Is this when Joan Cusack says the Madonna line?
I think she says that after that or before that, I forget.
It's one of my favorites, though, because she just looks at her, she's really caught up in all of her lying and all the fabricating she has to do to keep the ruse going. And she just says, sometimes I wear, what'd she say? I put on my underwear and I dance around, but that doesn't make me Madonna, and it never will. And there's some really brilliant truth to that.
That's true. She also, of course, says the, coffee, tea, me? when ushering in Harrison Ford, which is like one of the best things ever.
Isn't Cynthia riot? Thank you, Cynthia.
I just love her so much in this movie.
Yeah.
She could have been her own movie.
Yeah, she definitely could have been her own movie.
Go ahead.
So Catherine comes back.
Because she has to come back sometime.
So she has to be helicoptered. And of course she's like partying in her room, right, with her broken leg.
Because everything's come easy to her, right? So she's back in her room and it's like a big old party in there. It's like a scene out of Breakfast at Tiffany's in there.
And then she comes back and she has this gigantic stuffed gorilla for some reason.
Which made me laugh.
I love it. And of course she throws it at Melanie Griffith.
Well, that's the same year Gorilla in the Midst came out.
Oh, right. So probably it's an inside joke.
I think so. If it isn't, it's a very nice coincidence.
And so they takes her back to the office, and then she takes Catherine back to her apartment. And this is the thing I call bullshit, because I did injure my ankle, and when you come back home from the hospital after you have that kind of an injury, you need somebody to take care of you. And once again, Catherine doesn't have one goddamn person.
Right? She's making
not a nurse, nothing.
She makes her secretary do it.
Yeah, and she's got stairs in her apartment. So Melanie Griffith leaves to get her pain medicine, and then Harrison Ford rings the buzzer, and the woman's in bed with her negligee and the cast on her leg, looking gorgeous, by the way.
Well, isn't that how you laid around during your recovery?
Oh, I was so sexy. I was very bougie and sexy.
Very bougie.
Bougie. So... But this drove me crazy, because he hits the buzzer and instantly she goes, "Hey, come on up." Like, is the buzzer by her bed for the door? No, it's in another, like, I don't know. It's crazy, but because her injury is like not as traumatic as I think it would be.
Right.
But she comes, so Melanie Griffith comes back, drops off Catherine's medicine, and is going to go back to the office because she has a meeting with Trask, and Jack's going to be there. And so she just misses Jack, and Jack comes to see Catherine. And he's basically saying, yeah, I got to meet. Yeah, nice to see you. I'll see you in a minute. And she's confused because she thinks they're going to have some sexy times in her bed with her cast and her lingerie. And Melanie Griffith leaves her goddamn date book like right on her bed.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy every time.
And
bad
also,
decision.
like, Catherine, for someone who's pretty smart, seems pretty stupid when it comes to men. She can't read the clues at all. Dude didn't come to visit you at all.
Did he even call you?
Yeah.
Like, did he ever visit? Did he ever?
He's just not that into you, Catherine.
Right.
He's not that into you.
So Catherine sees the date book, sees what Melanie Griffith's up to, screams.
She basically writes, like, in the date book, like, I'm stealing Catherine's identity and her man.
Meeting with Jack and Trask for these 2 hours. Bye-bye. So they start the meeting downtown, and then Sigourney Weaver shows up with the crutches, like busting in. Great outfit. Like, who got her dressed? Okay, whatever. Yeah. But she goes in and says, this woman is a fraud. And once again, that is sort of the problem in the movie. It's sort of like you have to think, like, how come there can only be one woman at this table? Like, why is it so crazy to think? But okay. So then Melanie Griffith is caught lying a bit. And so she leaves, and Catherine, kind of kicks her out and says, you're fired.
Right.
And so Melanie Griffith comes back to pick up her stuff, like, I guess a day or two later. And that just happens to be the same time that Trask and are you sneezing?
No, I was just saying, phew, what a great coincidence for Tess.
Yeah, it's an incredible coincidence. Like, just at the moment she's there to clean off her desk, Trask is coming back, and the other dude, Armbruster, and she goes to the elevator, and then Sigourney Weaver shows up and is like, oh, that's horrible. What are you doing here? Stealing another idea, like really laying on the bitchiness.
Yes.
And Melanie Griffith yells at her, and get your bony ass out of here. That's the big story. Get your bony ass out of here.
So funny.
You and I know what's going on.
Yeah, don't ever talk to me like you don't know what really happened. Now get your bony ass out of here.
Which I love.
Yes.
That's a great burn.
It is.
And then sick burn, as the kids say.
That's what they say, right? You're burnt. You're burnt, Catherine.
So Catherine is in the elevator with Trask and everybody, and Melanie Griffith, she's always ripping out pages from the newspaper, the columns, like those gossip columns that gives her ideas. Help spark her ideas.
You never know where your good idea is going to come from.
Exactly. And so she says to him, well, there's this radio DJ, are you going to, up his contract? It's coming up soon. And that way Harrison Ford comes out of the elevator, and he kind of brings Trask with him. And Sigourney Weaver then is in the elevator going back up the building, and the three of them in the lobby. And then they go into another elevator. So it's Melanie Griffith, Trask, and Jack. And he says to her, all right, literally, here's your elevator pitch. And so she has to pitch the idea. Trask radio. And then I got Jack, and she explains the whole thing. And by the time they get to the floor and they're all there, he says to Sigourney Weaver, he says, hey, tell me where you came up with this idea. And Sigourney Weaver kind of stammers and doesn't really have a great answer. And that's when Trask instantly knows that Melanie Griffith is the one that has the idea that should be kept, not Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. Catherine, thank you. And then he tells her to get her bony ass out of here because he can fire her for some reason.
I guess for like an ethics violation, maybe, or maybe she's just in her 90-day probationary period.
Because I'm like, well, does Trask own the company, or is he a client of the company? Can he fire? But anyway, in this universe, he can fire her.
Yes.
And she kind of keeps her chin up and says, I won't be spoken to that way, and kind of keeps her dignity. And then Melanie Griffith, and she's going to be hired by Trask. and all the secretaries like start applauding. I love it when they applaud. They have their big hair and their stockings and stuff.
Yes.
It's so great.
I love it too.
And the very next day, she starts her new job, and Harrison Ford magically in a day got her this gorgeous little lunchbox filled
with her initials on it.
With her initials on it, and the peanut butter and jelly, and it's magic. And she goes to the Trask building at 7 World Trade Center. That building doesn't exist anymore. Sorry. It's so sad sometimes also, like, because it's all part of the New York was just changed for like by something tragic, and it's starting to build again, but it's very different from when I was a kid, when I would look out. Yeah. And so Melanie Griffith goes to her office, and she goes to where she's told to go to, and she sees a woman in an office with her feet up talking on the phone. So Tess assumes, oh, I'm her secretary now. And so she sits at the secretary's desk, and then the woman comes out and she says, no, sorry, that's your office. I'm your secretary. And then she asks her, what do you expect of me?
I love that
I love that too, because she's like, I expect you, don't get me coffee unless you're getting some for yourself, and let's just work it out as we go along, which is nice.
Yeah.
And
do you think she stays a good boss? Because I think she does.
I think she does too. I totally do. And she has this corner office with this like great view of the city, and she calls Joan Cusack Sin, and Joan Cusack screams, she did it, oh my God. And then the music swells one more time, and that's the movie, and it's awesome.
It is awesome, and it really like takes you out on a high note. Like you walk out of that movie, or I should say, even when I rewatched it, like walked out of my living room, like it's just so, you're like so happy, like justice is served. She gets her job and her man, like everything's good. But it's also kind of funny because it has that pan back, right? So and then you just see like all these people in their offices, and now she's just one of like.
Yeah, there's ways to look at it, right? It could seem really dark and suppressing.
Right, like, now she's just another worker bee.
Right. That's a good point.
But I'm fine with it. I don't take it that way. I take it more like everybody has a story. That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
And that was her story.
And it came out in December of '88. And I was looking on YouTube. I was trying to so there was a Working Girl TV series.
Oh, who was in it?
And Sandra Bullock.
Really?
And yes. And a bunch of other people that I kind of know, but you guys can look it up for yourselves. There's nobody really famous. And it's funny to watch. There's only one episode you can get, but Sandra Bullock is basically imitating Tess, like a breathy Tess. So Sandra Bullock trying to do that is really awkward. She's still Sandra Bullock because she's adorable and, relatable, but she's on a different level. Like her character, her Tess still lives in Staten Island. And she has a roommate. Yeah, it's a little different. So that it didn't take off. They only had a few episodes.
Is it like a prequel?
Yeah, I guess you say it would. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I might have to watch it because I just want to see that impression.
Well, it's weird. They only have one episode. And the whole point is that she's invited to a party, and she has a guy in her neighborhood. They've always been friends, but they never dated. But the guy follows her to the party because he doesn't want anything to happen to her. And it's just like a weird, not interesting rom-com thing. Is
the guy played by Alec Baldwin?
Stephen, unfortunately, no, it's nobody famous.
They could only afford William Baldwin, unfortunately.
They can only afford one Baldwin in this whole franchise. So, yeah, so I saw that. That was really cute. I wanted to read you. So it got mostly nice reviews, but here's, do you want to read Pauline Kael from The New Yorker? Nichols must have a cummerbund around his head. The directing is constricted. There's no visual inventiveness or spontaneity. And in his hands, the script has no conviction.
What?
I know.
She saw a different movie.
Yeah, she hated things sometimes.
She sure
did.
But
everybody else liked. Yeah.
She's crazy.
I think she was nuts.
I think she's nuts too. I think this was a great movie, and I know it made money. It got lots of Oscar attention, but it only won for Best Song.
Right.
But it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, and Supporting Actress for both Weaver and Joan Cusack.
And I think it was the year Jodie Foster won
Yeah.
Best Actress. Yeah, it's like it was the big surprise because I think there were so many people in contention that had hot movies.
So it was, let me look, I got it right here. So for Best Actress, this was a good year, actually. So it was Jodie Foster for The Accused, Glenn Close for Dangerous Liaisons, Melanie Griffith, Meryl Streep for A Cry in the Dark, with the, Dingo Ate My Baby, and then Sigourney Weaver, Gorillas in the Mist.
That's an incredible crew of women.
That's a lineup.
Yeah. I think Jodie Foster kind of split the odds or something.
Yeah. And then in supporting actress, Gina Davis won for The Accidental Tourist. And then Joan Cusack was nominated, and Frances McDormand for Mississippi Burning, and Michelle Pfeiffer for Dangerous Liaisons, and then Sigourney Weaver again for Working Girl.
Wow.
Those are good categories. Like those are good nominations. There's nobody in there that you're like, what? No. That's some good stuff. God, Mississippi Burning, that was good. I haven't seen that in a long time.
I haven't seen that in forever. I haven't seen Dangerous Liaisons in forever.
Yeah.
All of that.
We should put Dangerous Liaisons on the list.
We should actually, we should do that one of these days.
That's a good one.
Mm.
Do you think that Tess and Jack are still together?
No.
No?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
You think he cheated on her? You think Tess breaks her leg and he just moves on to someone else with a good idea?
Yeah, I kind of think Jack likes to be single. I kind of think Jack, at some point will feel constricted. I think at some point, Jack just wants to smoke pot and fly planes. like Harrison Ford.
He gets an earring and Tess is like, what? I'm out.
Because eventually, not every day is going to be like hijinks, like going to a wedding and getting somebody to dance with you and all this other stuff. Like real life kind of settles in, or are they in for I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they are in for the long haul.
You think,
I don't know.
The minute she gets on him about unloading the dishwasher, he's like, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't been nailed down yet. I could be a cynic. I rarely think about that.
I always think about stuff like that. So I wrote down a couple of notes. The Demi Moore, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Shelley Long were all possibilities for Melanie Griffith's role at one point. Mm-hmm. I also read that Melanie Griffith tried to get Alec Baldwin to sleep with her, and he wouldn't. And I was like, dude, I get it. He's smoking hot.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And apparently there was a lot of talk. Like at one point, they almost got Alec Baldwin for Harrison Ford's part, but they weren't comfortable having two virtual unknowns in the leads.
That kind of makes sense, though, because I don't remember, before this, I know he did Knots Landing, and I'm trying to think, what else Alec Baldwin did. Right. He was thrilled to get the part. Yeah. He was really happy for it.
Because
David Duchovny.
Oh, David Duchovny was...
David Duchovny's in there.
What part is he playing?
He's he's like one of the friends. So he's at the engagement party. He's at her surprise party when everyone's in the closet, and they jump out and say surprise. That's David Duchovny's there.
I did not know that. I didn't even see it. I missed it.
Go back and check it out.
I will. And I also wrote down a bunch of other 88 movies for us. So
great. We
have Die Hard, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, as I said, Dangerous Liaisons, Bull Durham, one of my favorites, Coming to America,
yes,
Rain Man, Beetlejuice, The Naked Gun, Midnight Run, Scrooged, Child's Play, A Fish Called Wanda, love that one.
Oh, that's so good.
Heathers, Beaches, Young Guns.
Oh my God, so many good movies.
My Neighbor Totoro and Married to the Mob.
Oh my God, there's so many good movies here.
Love Married to the Mob.
I want a divorce. Chris Isaac as a killer clown.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that one in so long, but it played at my movie theater and I loved it. And I can't remember the last time I watched it, but the last time I watched it, I really liked it.
Yeah, I like Jonathan Demme.
Yeah, me too. So what else are you dorking out about?
So I found a show on Netflix, and it made me think of my mom. This is something my mom would have loved. It's called Instant Hotel.
I've seen the little square with the picture, but I haven't watched it yet. Tell me.
Okay, so this is the deal. It takes place in Australia and it's a competition show. And basically it's a bunch of people who have their own Airbnb. They rent out their home and they live all over these different parts of the coast in Australia. And they all you have to do is there's like 4 or 5 teams of 2. And everybody gets to stay at every other person's place for like a night or 2 nights, okay? And you judge them on cleanliness, you judge them on where the location is, you judge them on what kind of sleep that you get that night. Just like how would you pay? And by the way, Australia is expensive, man. Like people pay $500 a night easy for stuff. So, and it's all over, like I said, like Australia is just beautiful. And it's everything from like a houseboat on a lake to Sydney, like gorgeous Sydney, like right, it's like downtown. And there's just this level of Australian bitchiness, the way they kind of snipe at each other, but it's never really evil. It's just kind of throwing a bit of shade. Yeah. But all of them have a different setting. And it's funny because there's one young, gorgeous couple, and they're super nice and sweet. And they're like maybe 25, 26 tops. And they're just beautiful. And when their thing comes up, it's this huge compound. And it's several homes on a property. And then she teaches yoga there and all this stuff. And everybody shows up and it looks like it's out of Vogue magazine. It's gorgeous. And everybody does the same thing. They walk through like, oh, this is nice. And they go to the camera like, how the fuck can these people afford this? Like everyone has the same thought. Like, right. And it turns out, of course, it's their parents' home. It's not really theirs. So they get points knocked off. But there's this bitchy Australian couple, and they're always like, our place is fantastic. Wait till you come to our place. And you get there, and it's like the Golden Girls threw up all over the place. There's plastic flowers, and it's just.
I love the idea of the Golden Girls throwing up all over everything.
It's so tacky and overdone, and just, but it's great. Nobody's really mean. And it's really sweet. There's like 2 seasons. I like the first season better, but it just takes you all these different locations in Australia. It just makes you, especially this time of year when you're home a lot and it's cold. I just really dorked out on it. I want to go all over Australia now.
I will definitely check some out, and I'm curious to see how Australian bitchiness plays out. Is it like it's like yummy. G'day, bitch?
Yeah, it's just kind of like that. It's just, and their accents are gorgeous. And it's just, there's a couple there where the husband and wife been together 30 years and he has a raging mullet and he's proud of it. And everybody talks about his mullet and he doesn't care. And they totally love each other and they're adorable. It's just, have a drink. Yeah, it's really fun. It's called Instant Hotel. The episodes, there's like 6 each season and they're like 30 minutes long.
Oh, that's like
you can just tear through them.
Super easy watch.
Yeah, that's what I'm dorking out on.
So I am dorking out on Into the Spider-Verse, which I finally got to see this weekend, and it is so good. It's so good. It's the animated Spider-Man movie that
I heard it was great.
It involves all these different like incarnations of Spider-Man, and they kind of team up together to fight Kingpin. And I'm not like super into comic books. Like I've never read comic books, but I see the movies, I get the gist of it. But my husband loves Spider-Man, and he likes the early Spider-Man movies, but he's not like, oh, they're the best. And he walked out of this one and he's like, this is the best Spider-Man movie. Like it really captures like what he loves about Spider-Man. 'Cause he's young and he's wisecracking but he's, smart, and the movie has heart, and the animation is beautiful and inventive, and it's just really, and it's inclusive because it's all these different Spider-Men. So it's weird to say Spider-Men, but because there's some women in there too. So it's like one of them is like a, 12 or 13-year-old like African-American boy. And then there's like the Peter Parker Spider-Man, and then there's one that's like a film noir Spider-Man voiced by Nicolas Cage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then there's like a Gwen Stacy Spider-Man with her voiced by Haley Stanfield from like Pitch Perfect and True Grit. It's really good. It's super fun. I did not bring my kid. It's not appropriate for like a 7-year-old necessarily, but like maybe 10 and up. It was really, really fun.
Oh,
So,
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, I don't think you need to be like some crazy Spider-Man fan to like it. I think it's a really enjoyable movie, and it's got a lot of heart and a good story too. I really, really liked it.
Did you see the Alamo?
I didn't. I went to one of our Century theaters with the lounger seats and all that.
Oh, I love that stuff.
I really wanted to see it at Alamo, but I missed it. I'm annoyed with myself for that. But they still have The Favorite, and I think I might go down to Alamo and see it.
You know what? I was thinking of checking that out as well.
Well,
because
maybe
I think it's going to get
try
nominated.
And then we can dork out about it next week on whatever it is we decide to do.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I think that's it for Working Girl, unless you have anything else you want to...
I looked at all my notes. I think I got everything in.
I think so, too. We did it.
We did it.
All right. Where can people find you?
The best thing to do is on social media is to find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick, and that's for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I have a blog, and it's brooklynfitchick.com. And come on over and say hi.
Do it, you guys. And you can find me at The Sonia Show. That's Sonia with an I on Twitter and on Facebook. And I also have a blog, soniashow.com. And you can find Dorking Out at dorkingoutshow.com, which is soon to be dorkingout.com. Because I bought the domain the other day. I just haven't made the change yet. And
Yay!
Yay! And then you can find Dorking Out Show on Twitter and Facebook. And this was super fun, as always. Thank you, Margo, for talking about Working Girl with me.
Let the rivers flow, dude.
Let it run, man.
Ah.
Let the river run.